Only narcissists think that they don't have internal barriers, because we've all got them, right? Every single human being on planet Earth has internal barriers. It's impossible not to. And by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why that is, how they're formed, how to identify where these internal barriers are showing up, because they hinder us from reaching our full potential. They might hinder us from achieving a certain goal or creating more success in our life, and they might hinder us from truly feeling how we want to feel, whatever that is, fulfillment, joy, happiness within your life. And I'm also, by the end of this video, going to tell you exactly what you've probably tried before that hasn't worked, and how to actually properly and permanently overcome these internal barriers so you can create more success in your life and achieve more goals and to feel how you truly want to feel, right? And, I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and, some of them are aware they have them. Some of them are kind of like, well, I don't have internal barriers. Well, the fact that you think that you don't have these internal barriers that are holding you back actually means you're a step behind the people who already have the awareness that they have them and began the work to overcome these internal barriers, right? Because we all believe we've got these challenges, and these challenges we think that happen externally, but the world doesn't happen from the outside in. What I've come to learn is the world actually happens from the inside out. And if you want to change your external world, you first have to change the internal world and have the internal change, which then leads to the external changes, right? And along my journey, a lot of you know that I've partnered with my coach after he completely changed my life. He's trained and certified at the highest level in psychology, neuroscience, NLP, advanced hypnosis, human behavior, the list goes on. And based on those principles over the last decade, he created something called the empowered intelligence, which he's actually trained me up in and certified me in. And throughout that process, I've had so many realizations about why the way we are, as entrepreneurs, what was causing the challenges within my life. And it all goes back to very early on in life, something called the imprint period that happens around sort of like the first 6-7 years of our life. And during this imprint period, this is where most of our programming is formed, which creates these internal barriers that then hold us back further on in life. And the reason it's formed is our brain hasn't evolved as quickly as society has. We now live in a world where there's like AI, there's technology around us. Society is very, very different to when we were at caveman times, but the human mind hasn't been able to evolve as quickly. So it's playing catch up, right? So it makes a lot of mistakes. And the prime directive of the mind is to keep us alive. That is it. When it comes down to everything, it is to keep us alive on this planet as long as possible. And it may experience something personally, or, we may witness something that we believe is going to create danger to us. When in actual fact, in modern society, it isn't, because we're not running around from, away from lions and tigers and bears anymore. So, it could be a traumatic event that we experience early on in life that either happens to us or that we witness, or more commonly, it could be something very minor that experience ourselves or, that we witness. To give you an example of what I mean by this, when I've kind of done the inner work and worked with Craig and removing all my internal barriers at the root cause, he's taken me back to places where I was 8 months old. I was 8 months old, I was in my cot, I was in our old kitchen, which got renovated when I was about 5. So consciously, I shouldn't have been able to remember it, but I remembered everything. I remember the layout of the tiles, the colour of the tiles, layout of the windows and doors. I could hear the TV in the background. I could feel the temperature of the room. And in that moment in my cot, I actually witnessed an argument between my parents. And I confronted my parents about this after going through this process, and they confirmed everything, right? Which really kind of like edified it for me. But what happened was, I witnessed an argument between my parents. It wasn't even a big argument. It was just a little back and forth, as people do every now and then in relationships. And it was the first time I ever experienced the emotion of fear. First time. I've never experienced it before. And I felt like in that moment, I felt like I wasn't capable of dealing with that emotion. And because I didn't feel capable of dealing with that emotion, I started to create beliefs about myself that, I am unloved, I am unworthy, I am trapped. And then what happened was I grew up into an adult, carrying these beliefs still all the way up into adulthood until a couple of years ago when I, did the inner work to resolve these beliefs about myself. But because they were formed so early on in life, they were so unconscious, so suppressed, I was clueless I even had them. Like, if you tried to tell me I believe this about myself, I probably laughed in your face, like, nah, mate, what you on about? But it's the most unconscious stuff that has the most power over our lives. And, can then create these internal barriers that hinder us in so many different ways. And yeah, so I went through that, and that was kind of like how a lot of stuff that was creating challenges within my life, within relationships, capping my success, the fulfillment that I wasn't feeling at the time. And I actually witnessed this happen as well a couple of weeks ago, right in front of my eyes. Me and my mates, for a laugh, we went to something called Blackpool Dungeons. I don't know if you've ever been to like London Dungeons or York Dungeons or anything like that, but it's kind of, it's a bit like a Farmageddon kind of vibe. It's meant to be like, a bit of a journey to take you through. It's a bit of a tour. There's all these like scary things going on. But anyways, there was this one room that we went in, right? And the group that we were in, there was this kind of family there, and they had a young child. Child must have been about 3-4 years old, so he was in this infant period time, right? And then when they went in, one of the rooms we were in, there was these like flashing strobe lights, and there was this scary character, and every time the light flashed on, they were like like in all these different scary positions. Anyways, this kid started absolutely just screaming their head off, obviously absolutely petrified, right? And then when the lights went on, he was clinging onto his dad for dear life, and for the rest of that tour that they took us through, I've never seen a kid so scared in my life. And I was just thinking to myself, I was, about the parents, I was like, you have no idea what you've just done to that child. Like, he will have created some beliefs about himself in that moment, some root cause beliefs, which are then going to give birth to new beliefs and more beliefs that are limiting, that are, again, create more internal barriers, because internal barriers create more internal barriers. And that's going to hinder him so many different ways later on in life. And he's going to be clueless he even has them, because it'll be so unconscious, because it's happens so early on in life. And I was just like, wow, like it so easily can happen, 6-7 years of our life. And the reason why this happens is the conscious mind doesn't form until about 6-7 years old. And it's the conscious mind that gives us that ability to accept or reject information, right? It's kind of like our armor. So we've got this armor up. So 6-7 years old, we start to form this armor. And we have this ability. So if you said to like a 4 or 5-year-old that the sky's blue, the sky's green, because he doesn't have that ability to accept or reject information, he's going to believe you. But as he starts to get a little bit older, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, because these are just averages, right? He'll start to be like, hang on, no, it's not green, it's blue. He has that ability, but before that, he doesn't have that ability. And the reason why why we've evolved to be this way, is when we're born, we need to become a sponge. We need to learn things as fast as possible in order to survive life. But the brain does make mistakes. So this is where it all comes from. So 6-7 years of your whole life, it could be something so minute that you witness an argument between your parents. You might be crying as a child, and your parents are sick of you crying, so they kind of ignore you, and you withdraw your love, and then bang, oh, why are they ignoring me? Oh, I'm not loved. Bang, you've created this internal belief about yourself. Like, it's so easily done. And that is why every single human being on planet Earth has these internal barriers, because it's impossible not to. You're operating for 6-7 years with no armor. The slightest little thing, bang, you create the root cause. So then what happens, we grow up into an adult and we're carrying these internal barriers, and how these manifest as these problems, these challenges that we experience on the surface in day-to-day life, whether that's within business, a career, finances, relationships, health, fulfillment, however we're feeling internally, whatever, they can manifest in loads of different ways. And a great way to indicate where these internal barriers are showing up is through what I like to call something called yo-yo patterns. And these can show up in any area of our life, but we all have them. We all experience these yo-yo patterns in some way, shape or form. For some people, especially entrepreneurs, that might show up with the gym or your eating patterns and eating clean and getting your meals in. This is actually something I've clocked recently that I need to then go and work with Craig again to work on myself, because it's textbook stuff of internal barriers where I'll go through phases where I'm like smashing the gym, meals are on point, eating clean, and then I'll start getting busy in business. Something will start to happen, and because I'm getting busy in business, I'll then fall off the gym, and then I'll fall off getting my meals in. I'll be slacking, the consistency will go, and this might happen for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes it can go on for longer, and it's different for everyone, right? And then I completely fall off, but then work starts to quieten down, and then I hit it hard again. I'm like, right, well, I've been slacking recently. I need to start smashing the gym again. So I start smashing the gym again. I start getting back on forward with my meals, getting my diet in, and I might be smashing it for a month, for a few weeks, or 2 weeks, sometimes 2-3 months. But then I get busy in business again, and I fall off again. And if I look at my whole life, well, at least from when I started gymming since a teenager, I've seen these constant yo-yo patterns happening throughout my entire life. Another common one here for entrepreneurs is finances, where they'll make a load of money and then they'll lose it. And then they'll make a load of money and then they'll lose it. And then they'll make a load of money, then they'll lose it. Then they'll make a load of money and then they'll lose it. Another one is where they go through these phases of like massively procrastinating, and other times they become this relentless workaholic, probably to the point where they get burnt out. And then because they're burnt out, they have to recharge. So then they go through other phases of procrastination. Then they've recharged, then they become a relentless workaholic again to the point of burnout. They need to recharge. And again, it's this constant yo-yo pattern that they're experiencing. Another one that's really common is these emotional roller coasters, where they'll be on this massive high, business is going great, whatever. And then, they're down here to the point where it's just like, I just want to put my head under a duvet and just ignore the entire world and bury my head in the sand. That was a big one for me. I used to go through phases where I would be like, banging in deals and feeling on top of the world. And then all of a sudden I started to feel like shit. I'd go to bed at night with anxiety. I'd wake up in the morning with anxiety. I just did not want to do the task that I knew I needed to do, which then led to further procrastination. And because I was procrastinating, I felt even more like shit. I just went to tuck my head under, under the duvet. There'd be times where I'd go for like a midday nap and I wasn't even that tired. I was just doing it because I really wanted to just shut off the world. And then, I'd start to feel okay again. I'd start taking some action, which made me feel even more okay. And then I'd feel on top of the world again. Then something happened. I'd start to feel like shit again. I was constantly going through these patterns. Another one's relationships. And again, this is stuff I used to experience, where I used to, I'd be like on the ball with previous relationships that I was in. And, I'd be like, making time for them and this and that, but then I'd start getting busy with work. And then because I was busy with work, I would never make time for previous partners. And then any time I did spend with them, I mentally wasn't there. I was just thinking of work and I was just getting stressed out about work. So then I'd become this relentless workaholic again, to the point where I was like, shit, I'm really sacrificing my relationship here. So then I started to divert my focus and my time and energy back to relationship to build that back up. But then I was like, shit, I've taken so much time and energy away from business. So then I put the energy and time back into that. And it was this constant yo-yo pattern. So there's so many different ways that this can manifest. Confidence is another one, where we go through these peaks and troughs of, that's a great way of describing all of them, by the way, is when we go through these phases of these peaks and troughs. But confidence, where times where we're in a state of high confidence, and then we're in this trough where we just feel like shit, we just feel unworthy, we're not feeling confident. Again, that was a big one for myself, and it's so common amongst entrepreneurs. I see it happening all the time, and it's only ever a problem when we're in the trough. I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and sometimes go, I'm in a good place right now. I'm like, okay, great. And I'll say, well, how many times have you been in a good place before? And they're like, oh, quite a few. And I'm like, how many times have you also been in the trough, in the down? And they're like, quite a few. And I'm like, well, I hate to say it, and I hope it doesn't happen for you, but if this is a yo-yo pattern that you're experiencing, if you're in the good place right now, I hate to say it, but there's a high probability you're going to fall back into the trough. And I'll tell you why. The unconscious mind, which is where all these internal barriers belong, they're unconscious to us, we're out of our conscious awareness. But the unconscious mind has 40 million nerve impulses per second, where the conscious mind has 40 nerve impulses per second. So the unconscious mind is literally 1 million times more powerful than the conscious mind. So if we try and override it, you're gonna lose, I'm just telling you. And it starts to feel like we are the captain and we wanna go north, right? But our neurology, our unconscious mind, is programmed to go east. And it's like we're trying to go north and the captain's having to grab hold of the wheel to try and pull the boat to go north by brute force, using tremendous amounts of energy. He's always getting burnt out, experiencing his emotional roller coaster, experiencing other challenges that are happening. Anytime he does get burnt out, or he takes a day off, or takes his eye off the ball, or whatever, that boat is immediately pulled back east. And he's having to always grab hold of that wheel to pull it to go north again by brute force. And it's only so long he can hold on, because it's the entire ship, right? And he has to let go, and it's immediately pulled back east, which is why he experiences yo-yo patterns. And it's like the captain's constantly trying to radio down to the crew in the engine room. It's like, lads, why are you set to go east? We want to go north. What are you doing? And it's like no one's answering. So once we remove all these internal barriers at the root cause, it's kind of like the crew in the engine room start picking up the radio. Well, lads, captain wants to go north. We need to change the coordinates. Well, let's set the coordinates so they go north. And now the ship is now programmed to go north. Captain's still taking massive empowered action, don't get me wrong. He's checking all the dials and, making sure we're on course and stuff. But it's effortless. It's effortless for him to go north. And that's what it feels like when we go from this place of these internal barriers, experiencing these peaks and troughs, these yo-yo patterns, to removing all our internal barriers. And now it's just this effortless flow to go there. And the reason why this happens is these internal barriers allow us to focus on what we don't want. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. If you believe at a deep unconscious level that you're broke, what will happen is by brute force, like the captain and the crew, by brute force trying to go north, you will start doing things to make money, and you'll make money. You'll make money. Money will come into your bank account, and you've been motivated to move away from being broke. Now, if you're motivated to get out the UK, well, what happens to that motivation once you're out the UK? It goes, right? That motivation disappears. If you're motivated to travel, that's something different. But if you're motivated to get out the UK, once you're out the UK, that motivation disappears. So if you're motivated from getting away from being broke, well, what then happens once you've got money in your bank and you no longer feel broke? Unconsciously, you won't even probably be aware of this unless you've had the realization. Unconsciously, you stop doing the things that made you money, you'll start spending the money, and then all of a sudden you'll lose the money. And because you've lost the money, you start to feel broke again. So that motivation kicks back in. So you do the things that you need to do to make the money, and then you've got money again. So unconsciously, you stop doing the things to make the money. You start spending the money, you lose it, and then the motivation kicks back in again, right? And this is constant yo-yo pattern where if you're programmed at a deep unconscious level where you believed, I am wealthy, and you're motivated by wealth. Well, what is wealth? It's this constant thing you're moving towards. It requires far less energy. It's like the crew in the engine room have started listening to the captain, and now they're programmed to go north. If you're motivated by wealth, well, once you've made a tenner, cool, let's make 100 quid, let's make £1,000, let's make 10 grand, let's make 100 grand, let's make 1 million, let's make 10 million, let's make 100 million, and so on and so on. You're constantly moving towards it, and you won't experience these yo-yo patterns. You'll just experience this gradual thing you're moving towards. It feels a lot more effortless. It's just this easy flow state. And you've probably tried a lot of different things. I know I have in the past with some of them to try and escape this yo-yo patterns. You might not even realize the two are linked. You might just think this is just something I do and not realizing actually why the reasons that you're doing it. If you really look deep enough, it might be a coping mechanism to try and escape this. A lot of them is what we like to call adaptive responsive. Some people it's alcohol, some people it's drugs, some people it's shopping, some people it's gambling, some people it's sex. You might have tried to leave the environment you're in, whether that's a certain social circle of mates that you're in, to try and be the product of your environment and being the average of the 5 people you hang around. You might have tried leaving the UK and going to a different country like Bali, Thailand, wherever all these popular destinations, or you might have just moved towns within the UK. You might have just tried to go north by brute force with this extreme hustle culture. That was a big one for me. I would just be getting up in the morning and working from morning until night. Like I didn't stop. I was just always pressing on because it was like I was trying to hold the wheel and by brute force trying to go as far north as I possibly could. But every single time I was pulled back in that direction. Some of you might have had the realizations about these internal barriers, and you might have tried different things like therapy, NLP, working with certain mindset coaches. I went to a lot of like holistic retreats and stuff like that. And, it's great stuff. It can help, but if you're not addressing it at the root cause, and I'm telling you now, I've invested close to 50 grand into my personal development. I've done a lot of internal work, and nothing I've personally seen focuses on the root cause. If you don't focus on the root cause and eliminating all these internal barriers at the root cause, it's like going into the garden and pulling out the weeds, but not pulling out the root. And if you do that, the weeds will just keep growing back. And that's why you will experience these yo-yo patterns. But if you find the root and you pull out the root, well, the weeds can't survive. They have to die because there's no root there. So they'll literally, they'll just go. Another one that I see a lot of people doing, they'll try and acquire information through personal development with coaches and mentors and listening to podcasts and reading books. And that's great. But again, you're trying to change an internal problem externally. It's not going to address the root cause of the problem. And again, you'll still experience these yo-yo patterns. And yeah, like procrastination is another one. That was a massive one for me, focusing on these like robust productivity systems again, because I was going through these yo-yo patterns all the time of like massively procrastinating, other times becoming this relentless workaholic. Well, when I did need to be productive, I would be like setting timers on my phone to get certain tasks done, be blocking times out of my day, and using different apps and stuff, like trying to eliminate all distractions in my environment. And again, it's cool, it's good stuff, but you're not addressing the problem of the root cause. It's like going to the garden, pulling out the weeds, but the weeds will keep growing back. You're trying to change an internal problem externally. You need to change it internally, have the internal results, which then leads to the external results. And these are all the realizations I've had along my journey, experiencing these things firsthand, right? So, so that's kind of what we do with the empowered intelligence method. Is we focus on removing all your internal barriers at the very root cause to allow you to experience heightened levels of success and fulfillment in your life more easily and more quickly, right? And we don't focus on the external things. We focus on changing the internal world to give you the internal results at the root cause, which then leads to further external results. So yeah, hopefully you took value from this, guys. Ask yourself the question, where am I experiencing these yo-yo patterns? Because if you are experiencing them, don't matter what area of your life that you're in, that will be derived from some form of root cause internal barrier. And these internal barriers at the root cause will give birth to new root cause, to new internal barriers, into new internal barriers, into new internal barriers. Before you know it, we've got hundreds and hundreds of these internal barriers showing up in all areas of our life that are holding us back in some way. And if you want to get rid of all of them, well, you've got to find the linchpin, the root cause, because if you eliminate that, then all of them will disappear along with it. So yeah, if it's worth us having a conversation and maybe jumping on a call and start to uncover what's really holding you back, you'll find my Instagram handle down in the comments. Click on that, just drop me a message, and maybe it's worth us having a conversation about it. Peace out.